Welcome to the public meeting of the City School District of Albany Board of Education. If you intend to speak in public comment tonight, now is the time to ensure that you have signed up on the sheet near the entrance here where the papers are, and if you need the paperwork for the meeting, that's where you pick it up. We invite those of you who like to say the Pledge of Allegiance to stand with us if you choose. There's a flag behind me. I pledge allegiance. Flag of the United States. In addition to saying to the Pledge of Allegiance, we always focus our meeting by restating the mission of the City School District of Albany, which is to work in partnership with our diverse community to engage every learner in a robust educational program designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. Superintendent Adams, do you have a report for us?
I do. Good evening, Madam President and members of the board. We are just a few days away from our annual budget vote and Board of Education elections. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. Tuesday and at 15 voting locations citywide. In addition to our budget proposal and 2 board seats, voters will have the chance to weigh in on Proposition 2, our package of facilities projects. Proposition 2 would have no tax impact. The budget proposal for the 2019-20 school year includes a 1.9% tax levy increase. This is the 6th year in a row that our proposal has been less than 2%. We have copies of our budget newsletter available here tonight for anyone who would like more information. We held our 14th and final community budget presentation Wednesday evening, a meeting with the Albany Common Council. The information was well received, and the council members thanked us for being proactive in our efforts to communicate more frequently with them about the budget and all of the great things that are happening in our school district. As a reminder, we have changed 2 voting locations this year. Residents in the 8th and the 14th wards who have voted at Mater Christi School or Bethany Reformed Church in the past will vote this year at Maria College's Macaulay Building, that is on South Manning Boulevard near the intersection with New Scotland Avenue. The residents in the 11th ward who voted at Albany High School in the past will vote this year at a Brooklyn Career and Technical Center. That's at the end of Erie Street, just a couple of blocks from the high school. We have a searchable directory of all voting locations in the 2019-2020 budget news section at albanyschools.org. You can also call Board Clerk Sierra Sturdivant at 518-475-6015 if you need help finding your polling place. Please remember to vote Tuesday, May 21st. A reminder that our groundbreaking ceremony for Phase 2 of the Rebuilding Albany High School project is coming up on Saturday, June 1st. We will hold the ceremony beginning at 10:30 a.m. We will also offer tours of Phase 1 that morning. Those tours will begin at 9:15 a.m. We can accommodate up to 80 visitors on our tours, and we ask that anyone who is interested to please sign up in advance. We have a flyer here this evening with information about how to do that. Our students at Albany High School and at the Tony Clement Center for Education had a wonderful opportunity to meet with an author last week and engage in robust conversations around important themes. Dashka Slater is the author, and I have a copy of the book here. I don't mind sharing it with you, but it is signed to me. It has my name in it, and it's signed by the author, but I'm more than happy to let you pass it around and see it, but it needs to be returned, okay? But this is a book that the book tells the true story of an agender teen who was set on fire by another teen while riding a bus in Oakland, California. Our students had the opportunity to engage with the author in wide-ranging discussions that explored topics such as race, class, gender, and the legal system. At Albany High, Ms. Slater's discussions included a meeting in the library with about 50 students from several English 9 classes. The group included students from our self-contained special education classrooms and students from an AP government class and politics class. The focus of this discussion touched on the criminal justice system, restorative practices, the death penalty, civil rights, LGBTQ issues, and how to sort facts from a bias in today's mainstream media. Albany High's library staff has also coordinated a book study for all staff in advance of Ms. Slater's visit. It was as well as a professional development session after school, as well as a professional development session after school on the topic of restorative practices. I would like to thank all of our administrators, teachers, and staff who helped make this opportunity possible. In particular, I would like to recognize Albany High librarian Alicia Abdul and English teacher Mercedes Austin for their leadership in organizing these meaningful activities for our students and staff. I've had the opportunity to engage with several groups of students recently. On Wednesday, I had the pleasure of reading to a 4th grade and 5th grade class at New Scotland Elementary School. It is always a pleasure to engage with our students around a good book. The Superintendent's Roundtable also met twice at Albany High School. The students are planning on 2 projects for next year: campus recycling and conservation, and participating in the planning of our urban farming in order to support promoting healthier food choices. The science department at Albany High is excited to look at the implementation and integration of urban farming into our curriculum. I also met with the first group of Albany High seniors in a senior shout-out session that allowed me to talk with members of the class of 2019 to share ideas and solutions to make the high school experience better for those students coming behind them. Students are sharing out valuable information regarding the strengths of our high school, areas of improvement, and recommendations for resolving the areas of improvement. The Albany High Marching Falcons are getting closer to their exciting trip to France to participate in the events marking the 75th anniversary of D-Day invasion of Europe during World War II. The Marching Falcons will be tuning up for the trip with 4 local performances, so please mark your calendars. They will be marching this Saturday in the annual Niska Day Parade in Niskayuna. Next Friday, May 24th, they are marching in a parade in Waterville. Is it Waterville or Watervliet? Watervliet, still learning that. And on Saturday, May 25th, they are scheduled to perform at the Saratoga National Battlefield. And they are also participating in Albany's Memorial Day Parade on Monday, May 27th. The Marching Falcons are headed to France during the first week of June. We are looking forward to having the band director, Brian Cady, and our talented students attend our June 20th board meeting to share their experiences from the trip. Speaking of Memorial Day weekend, I want to remind everyone that all of our schools and offices will be closed from Thursday, May 23rd through Tuesday, May 28th. As you know, we did not use any of our 3 snow days this school year and will be observing those days off in conjunction with Memorial Day. We will be back in session beginning Wednesday, May 29th. For my last item tonight, I want to remind everyone that our Albany High School theater students are performing in the Promising Playwrights Festival this weekend. The production is a student-written play entitled Hers, an explanation of our expectations. With this being the area of the Me Too movement as a backdrop, the play explores the destructive nature of gender-normative conditioning, rigid, widely accepted, and unchallenged views about gender. The performance actually debuts at Albany High School tonight. It continues with shows on Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 2 p.m. Our communications department produced a fabulous video previewing Hers this week, and I'd like to play it for you right now.
Hers is a student-written play that talks about all the things of being a woman, including cis and trans, our triumphs, our downfalls, the things that we're proud of, the things that we're not so proud of, everything in between the white, the gray, and the black.
And for the first couple of months, really, we just talked a lot. We talked a lot, we did a lot of free writing, we did a lot of just think about this and then write about it. And through that experience, we found out a lot about ourselves and our peers, and we found out new ways that we could relate to one another. And over time, we found out ways to put this on stage and to make it a show. And here's hers.
I think the best way for me to talk about this piece is to say that I've been recently reflecting on what it would have been like if I had been introduced to a work like this when I was 16 or 17 years old, how much it would have revolutionized my life, and how much working on this piece with our students over the course of the year as a 40-year-old woman has revolutionized my life.
And we created a connection, a sisterhood that is especially important in life that I would never get anywhere else. And on top of that, putting myself out there in a form of art with people that I'm comfortable with, people that love and respect me for simply who I am, is an amazing and beautiful thing that I haven't found any other place on earth.
Thank you very much. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much for that exciting report and the wonderful video. I know we're all looking forward to seeing hers in person, live and in person this weekend. So this is the time we set aside to hear from members of the public, possibly due to the incredibly beautiful weather outside. No one has signed up to speak today. So while we don't have anyone tonight, we invite members of the public to share their thoughts on the decisions we are facing at public comment, either here at our meetings and by phone, email, and postal mail. Contact information for every board member is available on the district website at albanyschools.org. So that brings us to the part of our meeting we call routine consent. During this part of the meeting, we approve routine matters for the district. That usually means things like contracts, field trips, hiring of personnel, and other similar matters. We vote on these as a group with no discussion, which allows us to use our meeting time more efficiently. Nonetheless, every Board of Education member has the option to set aside any routine consent item in order to require discussion and a separate vote on the item. So I will now entertain a motion to adopt the routine consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Ms. Wilson, seconded by Ms. Smith. Are there any set-asides? Ms. Alexander-Mann.
I need to set aside item 10, the addendum for Parsons Child and Family Center, and item 16, the Northeast Parent-Child Society.
Are there any other set-asides, Ms. Krejci?
Yes, I'd like to set aside number 4.
The new extra classroom activity fund?
Yes, please.
Are there any other set-asides? So all in favor of adopting the routine consent agenda, less the following set-asides: the Parsons contract, the Northeast Parent and Child Society addendum contract, and the new extra classroom activity fund. That is unanimous. So I'm just going to take them in numerical order. So we'll start with the new extra classroom activity fund. Do I have a motion to adopt that? Ms. Smith, seconded by Ms. Alexander-Mann. Is there any discussion? Ms. Krejci?
Yes, I had a question actually related to the new club for the My Brother's Keepers Alliance at Albany High School. And it was, I had remembered that a few years ago when My Brother's Keeper Alliance came to the area, that in Albany it was My Brothers and Sisters Keeper, and that the focus was on young men and women of color. So I was a little confused by the bylaws saying that this club was for boys and young men of color, and I wasn't sure if something had changed with the organization.
Madam President, members of the board, Member Roach, I'm sorry, Member Krejci. See, that just came out so quickly. This is from a different grant, and so with this grant, it is only for the young men. We still have the My Brothers and My Sisters Keeper. That's the one that you're familiar with Michelle Bridgewater, with that piece. And so this one is a separate grant, so that's a separate piece.
Okay, that's why I was confused. Thanks.
All in favor of adopting? That is unanimous. So the second set aside, can we take these two together? So number 10, the addendum for Parsons Child Family Center, and number 16, the Northeast Parent, Child and Society. Do I have a motion to adopt those two? Ms. Smith, seconded by Dr. Totor. Do we have any discussion? Ms. Alexander-Mann.
I can't vote. I'm an administrator at the agency.
All in favor of adopting these contracts? That is Ms. Krejci, Ms. Smith, Ms. Savage, Ms. Lang, Dr. Totor, and Ms. Wilson. All opposed? There's none. Any abstentions? Ms. Alexander-Mann. Thank you very much. So this is throwing a monkey wrench into our normal works, because normally I get to toss it over to Dr. Totor, but for the first time in about 3 years, we do not have a policy portion of our agenda because we did not meet in policy. But I believe the superintendent would like to make a introduction at this time.
Thank you very much, Madam President, members of the board. There are several announcements that I would like to highlight that were done in routine consent, and we have several people with us here tonight. At New Scotland Elementary School, we know that Dave Amodio is retiring, and so we are looking to appoint Leslie Buff to New Scotland. So please stand. And as you know, Leslie was a principal over at North Albany, and so we are so very excited to have her transition to New Scotland Elementary School. Thank you so very much. Okay, with the transition, So with the transition of North Albany being transitioning to a middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and looking at that reconfiguration, we were looking for someone who would be able to bring to that transition a sense of calm, a sense of working with our students, embracing our families, and making sure that we are setting our students on the right path for their 6th, 7th, and 8th grade year. And so that grade configuration would be next year. We would start with new 6th graders, and then they would move to 7th grade and 8th grade as we work with our community to look at enrollment patterns. And so we looked and we thought about someone who had all of those qualities of knowing what our middle school students would need in order to develop and set them in the right direction, and then also bring that sense of calm and working with building a strong culture, climate, and foundation for those students. And so we look to our own Julie Barber, who will then move to take over that task of assisting with us with transitioning North Albany to a 650-seat middle school. So thank you very much and congratulations. The final position that I would like to announce and introduce you at this juncture, we will take a moment again to pause because our money man, Mr. Bill Hogan, has decided to retire. And so as he transitions to a life of luxury and motorcycle riding and gallivanting all over the countryside, we had to advertise his position and look for a replacement. And so through a 4-part process, we have come to the conclusion, and we are very happy to introduce Kimberly Roaring, who will take the position as of July 1st. If you will come to the microphone, I'll just read a little bit about Ms. Roaring. She's currently an assistant superintendent for business at Cornwall Central School District, responsible for developing and managing the annual budget, completing all state financial reports and required filings, preparing budget presentations, budget documents. She serves as a liaison to the external and internal auditors, sits on the OU Health Board and Benefits Committee, prepares monthly board reports, and supervises all financial and benefit functions. She also serves as the Director of Transportation, District Clerk, Records Assess Officer. Her other responsibilities include supervising buildings and grounds, operations and maintenance, food service, and lastly, the board's audit facilities, policy, and safety committees. She has formerly served in Bloomfield Central School District, in Greece Central School District with a budget of $225 million and 10,727 students. She served in Pittsford Central School District and Rochester City School District in various roles, where there were 29,000 students roughly and a $790 million budget. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Kimberly Roaring. You have to turn that.
Am I on now? Yes. I would like to start by thanking the Board of Education, Superintendent Adams, and the Cabinet for selecting me to serve as the next Deputy Superintendent. Over the last few weeks, I've had an opportunity to learn a lot more about the district, its priorities, its culture, and the direction that you're headed in. I am so excited to be joining this dynamic team whose collective focus is really around serving the students and community of Albany, working on continuous improvement and doing so in a sustainable way. As somebody who strives for excellence in all that I do, I welcome this new challenge, and I'm very much excited to be part of this team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and welcome, Ms. Roaring. You have very big shoes to fill here, and we will be very sad to see Mr. Hogan go, but we look forward to working with you as we move forward with our vision for the future of the City School District of Albany. Thank you so much. So that brings us to an action item about which I think there's going to be a little more than the normal discussion, which is the Whitson's food service contract. We only RFP our food service contract every couple of years, and so while it is an action item, it is not one we take regularly, so there's often board questions on this kind of an agenda item. Mrs. Adams, do you want to do a brief introduction, or do you just want to start with questions? Come on up.
So Bill Hogan and Lisa Finkelbeiter will come forward, and we will be ready to answer any questions that you may have, and we can go straight into questions.
Lisa, thank you so much for being here tonight. We really appreciate all you do to make food service work as well as it does here in the City School District of Albany. It has been a major improvement over the last few years, and we know that is to your credit, so thank you so much. So, board colleagues, as always, I ask you to prioritize your questions and select your most important question first. If everybody asks a question and your second question has not been asked, we will, of course, go around again. Who has a question for the team? Nobody has a question? I'm going to be surprised. We did ask some questions in advance, so some of them got answered. Anybody have a question? Ms. Lang?
Hi, Howard. So as you know, that this was a topic that we wanted to talk about, and we know that this in part has had conversations in the Wellness Committee as well, so I wanted to thank you for the partnership for that. I just wanted to know, in the last 3 years, what are the major difference, or not quite the major difference, but the way that we've been looking at food and services with our students, especially now that 100% of our students are getting the meals for free. You know, has there been something that has changed collectively or culturally with the food service, and how that's impacted, you know, what you do on a daily basis?
Over the past 5 years since the last contract was in place, the government made a lot of regulation changes. With those regulation changes, we were mandated to bring in things like whole grains, increase our offerings of fruits and vegetables. As we did that through the regulation changes, we noticed that the students really prefer those things, as well as families, teachers. They're more alert in the classroom. So when I was looking at the old contract, which was meeting the regulations at that time, and looking at options for the new contract, and looking at regulations now being rolled back by our federal government, I really wanted to maintain all of the steps forward that we've already taken. So we're maintaining those whole grain standards. We're maintaining the double offering of fresh fruit and a canned fruit every day at lunch, a fresh vegetable and a cooked vegetable every day at lunch, just to really increase that variety. If those are not in writing, a food service management company can actually just meet the minimum requirements. So I really tried to boost the menus to meet those standards that may be rolled back by the federal government. They can roll back whatever they want. Ours is in black and white that we're going to maintain those.
Anyone else? Ms. Wilson?
What I was curious about was not necessarily pertaining to the contract or RFP, but really the avenues that families and students have to sort of give feedback about this food, or I should say lunch. You know, and in this age, before people come to you, they might often post straight to social media and things like that. So when they feel like there's not an avenue of redress, they will take, you know, drastic measures. So I was just curious what the feedback loop is for something like that.
So that's one of the things that I'm looking to improve. I am a frontline face in all of our cafeterias. The building leaders know me, the students know me. When I'm going through the halls at the high school, I'll even have an administrator stop and say, how do you know that student? Like sometimes we have trouble getting through to them. And I'm like, I have the benefit of talking about food. But I found through this process with the focus groups that we did have, I did a student council meeting. There's building leaders that have focus groups at their schools that gave me feedback. Albany High School PTSA. I really decided that I wanted to make that loop something a little more solid as opposed to just to the extent possible. So we're looking, and this is also per regulation, to establish a school food advisory board that will meet a minimum of 3 times a year, very set agenda items open to parents, teachers, students. Another thing we did last summer when we had the regulation to expand breakfast after the bell at some of our schools. Kathy Edmondson helped me reach out to families over the summer to get input. How would you like to see breakfast after the bell at your school? And we just had such a positive response that I feel like now with this new contract, we can really continue that momentum and get that loop. One of the things the high school PTSA mentioned to me is, what about the kids that aren't in the cafeteria? Great point. I am the front line. I'm seeing the kids right in front of me. So that's where I really want to work with the building leaders. If they have focus groups and they just a small agenda item once through the school year and they can capture some kids that maybe aren't coming to the cafeteria, I want to know why and I want to know what we can do to change that. You're welcome.
Ms. Smith?
And again, this is not really a question about the contract, I'm sorry. But I was just curious, with the urban farming and our community gardens, what's the connection or the interaction? Are we able, for instance, to have some of those products incorporated into the fresh foods that are provided to students?
Provided it's an approved provider. There are very strict guidelines for the food that comes into our schools. What is new is a partnership with Capital Roots, and also new in the past 2 years is a produce pilot program from the federal government, and they have been very generous with their entitlement dollars that allows us to purchase from local farms. So right now we partner with Daigle Produce. We're looking at Capital Roots. One of the things we are working on, and we have very open relationships and conversations, is pricing. Are we meeting the minimum portion size? What's the quality that comes through the door? So even if we try something and maybe it was a little off season and it wasn't perfect, it doesn't mean we won't try it again. Capital Roots is really making a footprint in our local schools. You may have seen on the news, Troy, that we are in the same purchasing with approval of this contract, we would be in the same purchasing group with them. So once you increase that volume, all of a sudden there's more availability and the pricing is more competitive, and we can see those things coming into our schools more often.
Dr. Chatur.
A while ago, I came across this school in South Bend, Indiana, Elkott Schools, which had a great program where all the unused food was being packaged by the school so the kids could take it home as part of the backpack program. Is this something that we would consider with, rather than food going to waste?
Yes, I did look into that because there was a lot on social media about that. They actually partnered with volunteers that had volumes and volumes and volumes of donations from other sources that they could look at maybe small quantities the school would have and they could put that together. So that's not something the district would take on, but if it was something that an outside group was looking at, perhaps there would be an opportunity. I am pretty tight with my staff on production and ensuring there isn't a lot of food waste. If something can be held safely till the next day, it's to be reused. We do offer versus serve, so students are only required to take what they want, certain components. They don't have to take the full meal. So we pride ourselves on not having a significant amount of food waste. If we go into, just to give you an example, we're telling our schools be very careful with your milk orders coming up on next weekend. If for some reason schools have a large quantity of milk left over on Wednesday, my drivers will take that to the mission.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Gracie.
I just had a question, and it was, does the contract allow us to apply for the fresh fruit and vegetable program in the future? Is that something we might be looking into to get fruits and vegetables in the classroom outside of the meal periods?
Yes, one of the big changes in this contract, it is marked off that if we wanted to participate in the fresh fruit and vegetable program, it would be administered by the food service management company. But there is also in the bid specifications, I added if we want to apply for a grant and we have extra funds in our nonprofit food service account, we can actually supplement grant programs to bring those things into the district. That is something we were absolutely limited with and could not do in the past. These would now be an option going forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So my question is also not just specifically about this contract, although I thought it was going to be about this contract, which is why I'm considering it germane, is that we have for many years had a lot of use of styrofoam in the district, and I had thought that it was a contractual thing. I had been led to believe somewhere along the line that was a contractual thing, and then the styrofoam disappeared, which is fantastic. But I'd like to know more about how that came to be that the styrofoam trays are gone and what other kind of environmental implications we've built into the oncoming contract.
That was a law that Albany County put in place. So they were absolutely required, despite our repeated requests year in and year out to say we want to get rid of this, we want something else, and they say there's nothing cost effective. That was in Albany County legislation. As we were using up our styrofoam trays, a health inspector came to one of our schools. There was one small stack left. She said, next time I come back, that has to be gone or you're getting fined. So that was Albany County legislation that really helped us push that through.
Is it also baked into our contract, though? Should something change legislatively, would we be protected by our contract?
That one, I'd have to go back and see. I believe right now they're to comply with Albany County legislation is how we're covered.
Anyone else?
Can I add one thing to that?
Yes, please.
So that's something that in the future, if there's a material change to the contract, you can go out for bid again. So if that was something, that was one of the things that held us back. It's a material change in the contract, we would have to go out to bid again. So if that was something that legislation was to change and be rolled back, we would say, okay, is this something we're really passionate about? Do we want to include this? It would be a material change in the contract, and we would discuss going out to bid again sooner than the required.
Thank you, that's helpful. Anyone for a second question? Okay, then can I get a motion to adopt the Whitson's contract? I would like to give Ms. Krejci, who has been our liaison to the Wellness Committee, the privilege of the motion. Who would like to do the second? How about Ms. Wilson? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you so much for making time to be here with us tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So that's the end of our action agenda. For the last several years, we have always front-loaded our agendas with all of the actions beforehand. We will now move to the discussion section. Barring something unexpected, we would not expect the board to take any other actions tonight. Instead, we will be in discussion for things that we might take action on in the future. So the first thing on our discussion agenda is the community engagement update regarding the budget community engagement.
Good evening. Thanks very much for the opportunity to be here and yell at you. I'll try and do that a little more quietly. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about our budget communications. We have been very actively engaged in all of that work since you adopted the budget in the first part of April, and actually prior to that as well. All of the work that we do in the communications department and obviously throughout the City School District of Albany is all in alignment with our guiding principles, our mission, vision, and goals. And in particular, the work that we do in communications year-round and during the budget process is in alignment with our goals of empowering our families and partnering with our diverse community. We use all of the tools at our disposal throughout the process. There are digital communications that we use extensively. There are a number of print options that we use as well. We rely on many large email group lists that we use frequently. We're very active in front of the community, as the superintendent referenced earlier tonight, and we do try to engage the media as often and as practicably as possible to tell those stories as well. See, I forgot to click. Our digital communication tools that I know you're all familiar with include, first of all, our website, and we are very extensive in the information that we have on our website in the 2019-20 budget news section there. That information is displayed very prominently on our homepage, so it's easy to find for folks who go to albanyschools.org. The URL itself is very simple, albanyschools.org/budget. And again, all of the information from start to finish in the budget development process is collected there. We also use the social media tools that we have. School News Notifier, which is just short of 6,000, has just short of 6,000 users. Our Facebook page is followed by pushing 6,900 followers, and we also have about 1,614 as of this afternoon. Followers on Twitter, and we use all of those tools extensively on a regular and ongoing basis to get information to all of our followers. This year we've added the video components that you saw at our last meeting and have seen, I'm sure, throughout the process on our social media and also at the community meetings that we've attended as a new addition that's been extremely well received. In addition to the budget video that we've included in our presentation this year, we've also broken out each of the students and staff members that you've seen into individual, very brief videos highlighting aspects of the budget that are important to our students and to our staff, sharing in their own words why the programs that they value are important to them with our community members. We started pushing those out on a daily basis beginning on last Monday, May 6th, and we'll continue that daily through next Monday with the individual videos, with the exception of last weekend. Up until the budget vote. On the day of the budget vote, we'll compile all of them into one video that we will share early in the morning to sort of culminate that whole video package that we've been rolling out. And as we have through the process, we'll continue to use those digital communication tools through nearly midnight on Tuesday. Our print communications include, of course, the budget newsletter that we mail to all roughly 39,000 residents in the city of Albany, and that went out in the very last few days of April and has been received by all of our residents. The budget postcard typically follows that, basically a reminder about the budget vote. We sent that out on Monday, May 6th, and it was received later in the week by, again, all of our residents, the roughly 39,000 addresses that we mailed to. In the middle of April, the Albany Housing Authority is always very gracious in working with us to share important information with the 2,500 residents that live in those apartment complexes throughout the city. So we sent our budget fact sheet to all of those families for the May with the rent bills at the beginning of May. So they had all that information in a timely way, and it also included a focus on the information about voter registration, which was an important aspect of our communications in the early stages of the budget communication process this year, because the voter registration deadline was May 6th, as you know. The budget fact sheet, as I say, is something that we shared with the Albany Housing Authority folks. We, in an ongoing way, have distributed that in our community presentations. We handed that out at our table at Tulip Fest this weekend, which we were there both days. And this week it will be going home with all of our elementary families as well. Email communications, three main large groups that we reach that way. All of our staff, of course, many of whom live and vote here, but it's also an important reminder for our staff that the budget vote is coming up in whatever community they live in, because voting on the school budget is, as we've talked with our community a lot about recently, often overlooked in every community, but very, very important in every community, and emphasizing that for our staff members, no matter where they live, we all believe is a responsible communication. We also communicate with all of the neighborhood associations that are part of the Council of Albany Neighborhood Associations, and we communicate with all of our PTA representatives as well that way, and we'll continue to do so again through the budget. We had an extensive list of community engagement opportunities this year. We had 14 meetings scheduled from late March through last night, and great opportunities to be in front of folks in every part of our community to talk about what we're proposing for Tuesday, and to hear their feedback and to hear the kind of questions they're asking and what's important to them, both in the budget and generally in the operation of the City School District of Albany on an ongoing basis. And as always, there's my phone number. Wait. Nope, it was there. Who was doing it for me? Thank you, Andre. I knew I'd forget about it. I blew it. So it was there, my phone number. If any group would like to have us come before the budget vote, we would love the opportunity. And send me anyone can give me a call, shoot me an email, and we will arrange that in advance of the budget vote gladly. And also, and I didn't include that in the presentation, we also developed a script for our principals to use in larger events that they had leading up to the vote. I was a little bit late in getting that out, and I missed the first few concerts that were held in the very early part of May, but we caught the majority of them. And there were other opportunities aside from the spring concerts that the principals were able to communicate with their families about when they had a large number of families in front of them. Media opportunities. We've had 4 major hits with the media, all very positive in the period of time that we've been talking about the budget. Back in April, Bill Hogan talked with the Times-Union about the debt limit issue that is very topical for us as we talk about Proposition 2, and that story reflected very well on the issue at hand. And the challenge that we faced in needing to get 60% of the vote for that measure, and the inequity that lies there for us in relation to the majority of school districts in New York State. On May 12th, the superintendent and Mr. Hogan both were involved in an interview with the Times-Union generally about our budget. Earlier this week, on Monday, the superintendent spoke with Channel 10 about the budget and the facilities proposal. And was it yesterday? Seems like it was a week ago. Yesterday, Board President Ann Savage did an excellent interview with Channel 9 about the purchase of the YMCA building that is included in Proposition 2 that folks will vote on Tuesday. I have nowhere else to go, except I did want to share one bit of positive feedback that we received, and we did get some very nice feedback, especially from Common Council President Corey Ellis at last night's meeting. But earlier this week, I also received an email from one of our community partners at Capital Region Sponsor a Scholar, and it was just a note entitled "Kudos," and just wanted to say kudos to you and your team for telling the story of the school budget so well. So great work, and it was very nice to get that kind of positive feedback, because we all have, everybody sitting in this room and everybody who's in my office have worked very hard trying to tell the story of the budget and communicate with all of our families about that.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and more importantly for all the work that is embedded in the presentation. I think everyone in the community has noticed this significant step up in the communication around the budget this year, which is a real credit to your department, as it has been growing over the last couple of years, which is terrific. Board colleagues, if you have a question you want to start with, Ms. Smith.
Really, I just wanted to echo the kudos. This year, more than any year for me, I had a number of calls on the day that the newsletter hit mailboxes, and so it was really a nice call to get to say, this is really great. This helped me understand the budget process a bit better, and so I just wanted to again say kudos to everyone for the work, and I know that those videos are marvelous as well, a nice addition, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I am very lucky, and I am very grateful to the board for supporting the team that we have in our office. I have a great team in my office, and I'm grateful for them every single day, so thank you for the opportunity to have the kind of staff to do that work the way that we do, and it's appreciated.
Ms. Lang?
One of the things that you didn't put on here that you're doing too is I know that you have written a script for our principals, and you did?
And I didn't include it, but I did mention it.
Okay, you did mention it, I'm
thank
sorry. Then I wanted to say, I don't know where I was. But I wanted to say that it was really, I heard it as a parent and as a board member, and it was on point, it was great, the message was received in a room full of parents, a room full of voters, and it was a big difference from one that I went to where nothing was said versus one where it was said. So I just want to say thank you for that because the parents were listening.
And thank you for your help in remembering.
Would you mind forwarding that to us? Because unfortunately, the concerts I am going to be able to attend all fall after the budget vote, so I won't get to hear it said out loud.
They are all tailored a bit to the school. I'll send you one
I'll
for
take what I can get.
Myers or something.
So
Ms. Alexander Mann?
Wait,
Oh,
I
I'm
just
sorry, I didn't
put
want
it
to
on your
interrupt.
bullet of things that you did because it wasn't on there and we
It
wanted
was
to be
awesome.
reflective.
Ms. Alexander Mann?
Ron, it's just another thank you to the communications department. In the third slide of the overview, you said the district uses a wide range of communication tactics to share info about the budget vote, and I would also say about everything. I mean, this school year, in my first year on the board, I have seen it's really quite beautiful, the work that your staff does and the way that folks get information about the positive things that are happening in the district.
Thank you. It is, and I've said this from the beginning, it is, you don't pass your budget in April and May, you pass your budget from September through March. How people feel about the school district and about the work that you are doing and we are doing as staff going into the budget season is it's going to define how successful we are with the budget. And we have been very fortunate to be, because our budgets have been crafted extremely well, we've been very fortunate that our community supported our budget. And we work hard at that all year long. We don't just turn it on, as you noted, when it gets to be, when you guys say go on the budget. It's important for our families to trust us, and that's what we work hard at all year round.
Ms. Wilson?
Thank you again, and I'm also effusive. I think everything is very cohesive. When I'm out in the community, I see our table and everyone's engaging us, and the materials have what they call in the advertising industry like that pop. People want to read them, they want to pour over them because everything's so bright and beautiful, so thank you so much. I also, when reviewing this, was thinking about how we took the next step, I think this year or last year, where we enrolled council members in SNN. And I'm thinking that initially when I was reading this, I was thinking perhaps enroll more groups, but rather than enroll, maybe you could have like a Excel sheet of email links and to say forward this message for us to your distribution list, because there's many groups such as that in the community. If you don't do that already, you probably do. And another thought that I was thinking in the SNN, because I double checked really quickly, if they could also have like that link that some do to say share this on social media or tweet this, that could be an enhancement, because I often just copy paste them because they're beautiful. Like Damaris said, they're great. So thank you. And one last thing is I was thinking about also maybe this wouldn't necessarily work as an SNN where they come out daily or almost weekly, but a text could be for to be reminded when. On our website, you could have people opt in to text to be reminded when X, Y, or Z. It was just a thought I had also. And thank you again.
I had an interesting experience this week with the robocall feature that we have through School Messenger, and we do have a robotext feature as well. I don't know if this is germane, but it was, I thought, funny, and I'll share it anyway, because we need to figure it out. We sent out a communication letting all of our families know that on Wednesday after school at all of our elementary schools that we would have the opportunity for enrollment support related to our summer enrichment program. And I included my phone number as the callback, as the source number for 4,212 phone calls that we made. And my phone started ringing immediately as I was sitting there trying to prepare for a community presentation. And I got to talk with lots of people, and they were all very happy for the information. But we do have to figure that piece out as we go through the dive more deeply into the robo world.
And again, I don't know if you're incorporating this, but in my day job, we do a lot of work to incorporate behavioral interventions, making sure there's white space and it's very readable and accessible to all groups. And I see that at work in our materials too, and I want to commend you for that.
That's great. Thank you.
Ms. Krejci?
Well, I was very surprised the other day at work when my phone rang. Oh, Ron Lesko wants to talk to me. I wonder what he wants.
Just to share a little helpful information.
Thank you so much for the work you've done with the budget. You know, I hadn't realized that you'd scripted the message for principals for the concerts, and I really, that message that I heard at the concert was so on on point, tailored to the school, and explained to me exactly why I, as a parent, needed to go vote for that budget specifically for my school and my kid, that it was really wonderfully crafted. So thank you for putting, and that you would do that for 18 different schools really is a lot of work. So thank you so much for giving everyone that personal reason to get out there and vote next week.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Dr. Chator.
You know, after years of being blamed for not being transparent, I think this year your department has helped the district do a tremendous job in opening up what we do and letting people actually have a peek at what really happens in the district. And there are so many different things, good things that are happening in the district, and we didn't quite celebrate them in the past as much. And now, I mean, you go to a lot of these community meetings and you have people who are not even in our district telling us, oh, look at this thing that, I saw this thing, piece about blah, 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 or about your district. Oh, this your district just seems to be, it's so much nice to hear those things, to get that positive feedback. Our kids have lots of talent. There's lots of things happening. We just weren't telling people about it. And sometimes you need to beat that drum and tell people about what we're doing. And your department has done a great job. Pictures that Lisa and Jake take, wow. I mean, the life in those pictures, you don't need any words. You can just look at the happiness in those kids, and it says it all. So thank you.
Thank you. And just to repeat what I said earlier, and it's true of everything that we do. We could not do that work if the board didn't believe in that work. You've committed to investing in communication staff in recent years, and I'm grateful for it, and we're all grateful for it. And I think that's what we're seeing as a result of your investment in communicating with our families and our community. So, thank you.
So thank you again for all of the hard work. I think we all believe that the work is on point and was done with absolute excellence this year. It is something we will metric fairly easily on May 21st because, as you know, I track the voting history very, very carefully in the City School District of Albany. I know how many people have voted in every election going back almost 20 years, and we'll know all of this work. It's good to do it, and it's great to have the spin for the district that people understand the great work we're doing. It will be interesting to see if it really turns people out, and we'll know. We'll have a pretty good sense of whether people come out to vote because of the work we're doing.
I'm looking forward to updating my record as well with another positive outcome.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So that next brings us to the discussion of the pre-kindergarten and magnet lottery.
Madam President, members of the board, at this time, Dr. Cecily Wilson-Turner will share information, and I'll go ahead and introduce that she will be at the microphone for a little bit tonight, first to talk about the lottery, and then to also talk about the reseating of our students at North Albany.
Good evening. So I'm happy to say that as I completed our PowerPoint presentation for this evening, so much has remained consistent about our lottery process over the last few years that is working, and we'll have a few items for discussion and consideration for the board at the conclusion of the presentation. So our goals remain to provide equal access to our families for limited seats for pre-kindergarten and for our magnet schools and dual language program. And we use our lottery process to ensure that there is access for all families. Our budget is from the general fund, and right now it consists of what we pay our lottery private contractor, Joseph Whites and Associates, to conduct the lottery, our supplies and materials for producing the lottery materials, and our salary for our clerical staff, which is half-time dedicated to the lottery work. And half-time dedicated for the lottery work, not just for elementary, but also the high school lottery. So our pre-kindergarten and magnet lottery application process, we begin with information sessions the first week of January. Sometimes it falls into the second week. And we release the applications at that same point in time so that parents can get information with application on hand at our magnet schools so they can make informed decisions. Later, in about 4 weeks, later in February, we do the same with our pre-K information nights through our early childhood department, so our pre-K families can be provided with information to help them make a decision. 2 years ago, we worked really closely with the communications department to revamp our application process so that it provided critical information about the programs that families were applying to, in addition to creating a website link where families could go out and find the lottery statistics so that they had an understanding of their chances of getting into particular schools. So families are asked to prioritize their top 4 choices and identify if there is a sibling attending the school for sibling preference, and to opt in for sibling linking. So I'll pause here for our 2 clarifications. So sibling preference is for a student who has a sibling that currently attends a school that the family is applying for a seat in, and those families who have a sibling in that school are then given more preference or weighted more going through the lottery process than other families. Sibling linking is the opportunity for families to choose how their children who are siblings apply and move through the lottery together. If you choose to link your siblings, you are accepting a seat or denying a seat based on the availability for both of your children. So if there is only one seat available for one of your children and the other of your children would not get in, then you would be choosing to decline a place at that school until a spot was available for both of your students. If you choose not to link your students move singularly through the lottery process, and therefore when a seat is awarded, they take that seat and you may end up with children in different schools, but you would then move to sibling preference because you now have a child in that school, and you would be able to now have both of your children in that school once a space became available. And then our next layer in the lottery is neighborhood preference. And so after we go through sibling preference, if you are within the 0.5 mile radius of the lottery school, you are able to get the next level of preference to enter your child into that school for a seat. And I kind of just walked you through how they are assigned. So first sibling preference, next neighborhood preference, and then all other applications are randomly assigned based on their first through fourth choice and space availability. And if sibling linking is selected, it's as I described. So our process in the Magnet office is we award the seats. This year we did still post our results at Toast. It was the first year that we were trying out our new system where we also email notification was provided for families as to what their award would be instead of them having to wait for the mail process to obtain their letter. And we had some small glitches with that, and it went out a little later than we wanted it to. So we're glad that we still kept all 3 pieces in place, the posting at Toast, the email notification, and the mail notification. So families had 3 opportunities to receive information about their child's assignment. We have since gotten to a better place, I think, with our email attachment, and that has been built, and we look forward to using that going forward. I think parents found it helpful. Our unassigned seats, they receive a letter indicating one of 3 things. They are either in a waiting list for pre-kindergarten, non-magnet schools. Okay, so then the magnet schools pre-K are treated the same way as the rest of the magnet schools, and those students, if they were not awarded a seat, all go into a waiting pool. And just for historical context, we have gone back and forth between waiting list and waiting pool. We've tried to have it all be the same, and it has presented with some challenges, particularly for pre-K. If we use a waiting pool, it holds up the process for families enrolling in school, and thus we have students out of school waiting for the next round of the lottery to receive a seat, whereas if we just run a waiting list, parents can be immediately placed as soon as a space becomes available, and that's really the distinction. And we have committed to continuing with the waiting pool for the lottery because we feel like it provides the most equal access for families. Typically with the first lottery or the main lottery, we use a 4-week deadline, but we also do monthly rolling lotteries for any available seats after the main lottery is run, and for that we use typically a 2 to 3 week deadline so that we can keep that process moving and get students into those seats. We love our robocalls, and so we do an automated reminder. We do an automated reminder to families to register before the window closes, and that has assisted us in getting more students to come in and register for their seats. So this is a data sheet that I provide each year to give you a sense of how students are applying and are assigned. So we began with 583 pre-kindergarten seats, 230 magnet seats, and it was noted that this was an increase over previous years. And what the explanation is for that is that TOAST has a significant amount of space available in their school. Over 100 seats were open and available for TOAST this year, which accounts for that large amount of seats available at the magnet school. It is correct that it is K through 6, and so our total available seats is 813. Of those available seats, we received 386 pre-kindergarten applications, 163 magnet applications for K-6, for a total of 549 applications. So our applications have been down for the last 2 years since we changed the magnet lottery to be about approximately 4 weeks earlier than it has been in the past. We did that change so that we could also move up the kindergarten registration window. And our reasoning for moving up the kindergarten registration window was so that we would get those families in earlier who are not currently participating in our pre-kindergarten programs, get them screened earlier, and make sure that they get access to our Jumpstart Summer program. We have had some success with that effort by being able to get upwards of 40 families screened earlier than we typically would have, and inviting them to be able to participate in the Jumpstart program. But we can discuss whether the benefit of being able to get to those families earlier is outweighed by the decrease in applications at that point in time. What I would ask the board to keep in mind is parents, even if they don't get into the lottery for the main lottery, every month those seats remain available. They can apply at any time and still get a seat for that time. And that is currently what is happening. So we have not had difficulty going forward filling seats because families missed that first main lottery. So out of those applications, we awarded 377 out of the 386 pre-kindergarten seats. And just remember, those 370 seats were awarded to the families. It does not mean it was their first choice seat. It means out of the 4 choices that they chose, one of them fit, and that's what was awarded to them. And they may choose not to register and accept that seat. So that left only a total of 9 students not awarded seats, 4 of which were for magnet, 5 of which were for our waiting list pre-kindergartens, leaving 206 vacant pre-kindergarten seats that we continue to fill each day. On the magnet side, we were able to award 100 seats, leaving 63 seats unawarded. And then remember, the remainder of those seats can go into the waiting pool, and so 91 of those students are in the waiting pool for magnet, and 31 are on the waiting list for dual language pre-K, leaving 130 total vacant seats for dual language and magnet. And then our total vacant seats is 336 that we, again, endeavor to keep filling. Every year I show you our demographic statistics, and once again, and I provide the backup in the report, that our schools, in our magnet schools, all have different demographics. The one that most closely replicates the demographics of the district consistently is Ash, and what we have always noted is the demographics of the school are representative of who's applying as well as who is assigned. So we've started discussing last year, last year we started discussing what our enrollment cutoff for our students. And so we have consistently stopped enrolling magnet schools in December of that year in preparation for the magnet lottery that we're going to hold in March. It allows us to provide families with necessary information to make a determination about available seats. And once we fill those seats in the lottery, they are no longer available for that current school year because then those students roll over and would bump out those students. However, we did have some discussions about particular instances where we could continue to enroll. And that is when, for example, in a 5th grade magnet classroom, those students are moving on to middle school the next year. It doesn't matter if I keep adding to those classrooms. The same happens to be true at Delaware Dual Language after first grade on the English-speaking side. And that has been an issue where if there are 3 English seats still there, we could technically in first grade still put those children in after December because we're not adding English-speaking seats after first grade. So there's some opportunity there where we could be flexible for families and can continue to enroll in those schools. Every year we debrief our lottery process and make any necessary revisions and adjustments. And we have already done a test of our electronic submission, which we're really excited about, where parents can actually fill out their lottery application through an online link that has been created by our Office of Data Assessment and Technology that we did a practice run on with the North Albany reseating process.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wilson-Turner. It is lovely to have the same face talking about the same thing so many years in a row because we know that there's consistency in the way it's been implemented and that the understanding is growing every year of how this all works. Board colleagues, as usual, first questions. Who would like to go first? Ms. Lang?
So I wanted to kind of sibling or lists and waiting lists. Is there sibling preference and 0.5 at waiting lists and waiting pools, or talk to me about how those two things are?
When they are originally created, yes, that should be the case. When they are originally creating the waiting list, the lottery consultant actually generates that waiting list for us based on his pull from the data. Any child added after the fact is not.
For both lists and pools?
For just for lists. Pools, we don't.
So pools, the sibling and neighborhood preference, when you run the lottery the second time still applies.
Absolutely.
But for a list, you just get it put on the bottom of the list regardless of what your preference status
Regardless
is.
of your preference status, after the initial run of the wait list. So if I already have 10 families on the wait list, the 11th person to come in does not then bump the second person because they have sibling preference.
But it would for a pool.
In waiting pool, they're all just sitting in there with their existing preferences, and when we pull using the same criteria we pull with the March lottery.
So first question, Ms. Alexander-Mann.
How often do we pull from the waiting pool?
Every month.
Every month, okay. Thank you.
Who's next? With electronic submissions, are you expecting that to change? This is a two-part question. I'll put the whole thing out there. One of the things I know that I noted to you that I had not realized until this year was that our pre-K, 3K, and our pre-K deadlines are different, even though the lottery is drawn on the same day, which I think, do I have that right? No, pre-K and magnet are different, even though the lottery is drawn on the same day. Sorry.
Yep.
And I know that led to some confusion in the community where they were confused about what the deadline was that applied to them. And so I'm wondering if we're now doing electronic submission, if that would A, allow us to have the same deadline, and B, allow us to move the deadline closer to the lottery draw so that we don't have as long of a delay. Because I am, I think one of the pieces of data that we don't have here when I went back and looked at the last few years of this is how many of the seats are full before the first day of school? Because that's really the important question, right? Like if I see vacancy at the end of the lottery draw, but they get filled up before the first day of school, okay, that's just a different model in. But if this lag in applications is actually preventing us from filling seats, that's a bigger problem. And so I'm curious about that. That's two different topics altogether, sorry.
So I'll be honest, I would have to confer with Melissa Hasty and my internal lottery person about the challenge it would create to have the same deadline. Part of the challenge is that most people wait until the deadline to submit their application, and then we schedule our lottery based on our application deadline. So if she gets all 836 applications on that last day for both pre-K and magnet, that creates a challenge in terms of trying to just manually input all of that data. However, with electronic submission, that may be possible. But what I will say is, in our test run with North Albany reseating, out of the 86 completed applications, 15 of them were submitted through the electronic platform. So it may take us a little while to get there, but I could see us, if once we eventually are pretty strong with using that, we might be able to do that, because then all the work is some of the work is done in terms of inputting. She still will have to go in and correct grades and birthdays and do all those checks.
Ms. Lang?
I was wondering if we could add the demographics for the dual language magnet program. You've got the kindergarten, elementary magnet, lottery demographic, but not dual. I don't know if that's just
It's such a small number.
It's that,
It's just
so,
too small.
so part of the check, where I pulled this data from is our data dashboards from our schools. And so that is all, automated information that I can receive. Anytime we've done specific pulls for dual, it's really been a manual pull, but I never pretend to speak about things that are not my wheelhouse. I will consult offline with Dr. Baker. I'm speaking it into existence, Mr. Baker. I will consult offline with Mr. Baker about if there's a feasible way to pull those students, if they're tagged a particular way in school tool that would allow us to access that.
I just wanted to validate again that I'm understanding reading this chart again properly. There is a number 4, which says that there are 4 pre-K applicants in the waiting pool for all magnet schools. And is that the same way it's been presented in past years? Because the prior year there was 0, and the year before that 7. And yet I hear a lot of chattering in the community that people cannot get their pre-K or into the magnet that they want. Is that
Well,
just?
that's the key word there is the magnet that they want. So they can
But so
get
why
into,
wouldn't they be in the pool if they didn't get into the one that they want?
because
That's
they
what
were
I'm trying to
assigned to one of the other
I see.
programs.
Because they chose, they had 2 preferences instead of just one. I
So if
see.
they put, if they took advantage of all 4 of their choices and they didn't get into choice 1, we placed them in choice 2 or in choice 3.
Okay, that's very interesting. I will say that what I hear in the community is inconsistent with that, with the data, which is very unusual. Usually what I hear in the community is consistent with the data, so I'm just surprised, but that is what it is.
But are they saying they're not getting into a magnet school, or are they saying they're not getting into a magnet school that they want?
It's never
But
a
you-
specific question like
Got
that. I
it.
mean, I'm not having a specific one-on-one conversation with a parent where I'd be able to ask that level of detail. I'm
it.
just listening to the gossip and the chatter and people saying, well, you can't get in because nobody can ever get in, and I've been trying to get in for 20 years and I've never gotten in, and so I am choosing my neighborhood school, moving to Del Mar, choosing private school, whatever they're doing. So I hear that. I hear that narrative all the time, but this data suggests that that's actually not the case, that the waiting lists at the magnet, at the pre-K level at least, are not particularly long. There aren't a lot of people being turned away.
So, but you raised a good point. So if I think all the way back to 2016, I do believe the way we reported this was these are children who did not get a seat at all anywhere in any of those choices. I think in 2016, I reported it where I showed you the number of students who are still in the waiting pool for their first choice school. That's the difference.
So in 2016, that number said 136. So that's what the difference is. So somehow I would like to get a better handle on just the way, I'd like the narrative, I'd like to be able to tell the story about what's happening with our magnets, because when the waiting lists are long, that means our magnets are very appealing to community. If our waiting lists are short, that means that we are serving the need that is demonstrated by the interest in the lottery. And so those are 2 totally different stories, and I just want to be able to know what the story and the narrative is.
And what I would say the story is that there are particular magnet schools that are very sought after, that people have a very difficult time getting into if they do not have particular preferences, because siblings and neighborhood preference come into play there, and it's difficult to get into that school. But other schools, typically, if you don't get in the first time, you may get in the 6th or 7th time. In the instance of Toast, you could get into almost any grade level you want at this point in time.
But those schools are not so appealing that people are only preferencing them, because if they were only preferencing them, that number would be large. They're still preferencing the other schools. So we're still capturing those students and giving them a seat somewhere that's of interest to their family.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Lang.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify, because I think that is where either we need a different graph to understand, because when I look at this, I see applicants on the waiting list, pre-kindergarten dual language. When I was helping just a mother recently that was told she was number 11th on the waiting list on the English side. So I would look at that number and say, she's in it doesn't.
Pre-K?
In pre-K.
So the only thing that I could presume is that since the lottery ran in March, you've had more people apply because our deadline was so much earlier than it has been in the past, and that waiting list has grown.
Right, which brings me to which I understand now, in the explanation with Anne, which then brings me to my next question was the percentage that you touched on of people applying pre-deadline versus post-deadline, because if that's, and I think on the Spanish side, she was number 4. She speaks Spanish and English. So right there, it's 15. And if 10 more people applied after that deadline, which she did, she applied after the deadline, then that's a significant kind of percentage in that particular pool, considering that it's 18 students just for that program. So 18 students got in, and essentially 10 more applied after that deadline.
Yep. And so, like I said, it's a decision that we make. Is there value in doing our kindergarten registration early? Absolutely. Is there, do people still have the opportunity to apply after the deadline? Absolutely. And do we fill seats after the deadline? Absolutely. In our two of our magnet schools, fill as they are supposed to, regardless of when we set this deadline. One of our magnet schools is struggling with enrollment now, and my hypothesis is because when you identify a school as a priority status, that changes how parents and families view that school as a choice for them, and that impacts their enrollment, not necessarily the change in the deadline.
So it sounds like, as we're moving forward, there's some other information that would be helpful for us to understand about seats filling before the end of the year and the wait lists growing over time. So, the lottery has become so much better and so much less obscure than it was 5 years ago. People really understand the process now. It's very clear. The quality of the application process is 1,000 times better than it was a few years ago. So all of these questions are just, around the edges, fine tuning, no criticism, just, looking for a continuous cycle of improvement. Are there any other questions? And Dr. Wilson-Turner, did you want some feedback from us on any of the possible scenarios you were thinking about for next year?
Yes, but before I do, there was a question when we were doing receipting about sibling linking. 27 students from 13 families chose to link. Okay, so just to give perspective.
So out of 27 possible families that could have linked, 13 did? No, I misunderstood.
27 students were linked going through the lottery. They were out of 13 families.
Okay.
Yes, so I'm comfortable enrolling in those specific situations beyond the December cutoff where it doesn't impact future enrollment, and that's really all I would need you.
I think that the general consensus on the board is we want to maximize the utility of our magnet seats, and so the more children in seats, the better. I see a lot of nodding. You don't need a formal action, right? This is just a straw man? Okay, straw poll. All righty. Anything else for Dr. Wilson-Turner before we let her turn the page to the next presentation? Thank you very much. And on to North Albany receipting.
So I thought I would take us through an update just by using the timeline that we originally proposed as we went through the North Albany re-enrollment process. Our focus, I want to be clear, has been on the North Albany zoned families who had a very tight timeline for completing applications to tell us where they would prefer their child to attend school. And so the bulk of the presentation will focus on them. But we have done information for all of the families. So when all was said and done, we had to provide applications and receiving opportunities for 88 North Albany Zone students and 22 students from Delaware Community School and Schuyler Achievement Academy. If you can visualize a couple months ago, the little graph I showed you with the red spots that said these are places where we're not going to have enough space for those students to be rolled to their home schools, that ended up being 22 students. So we began our process with, and actually at the outset, I just want to publicly thank Ron Lesko and his department and Kent Baker and his department. They've been instrumental in helping me to execute this as quickly as we possibly can. So communications was instrumental in creating letters that were sent home to all North Albany families, explaining the changes that were coming to North Albany and what the options would be if you lived in the neighborhood zone versus if you did not. Those went by backpack and by mail. Communications created large posters to place at the entryway, again explaining those options to provide information to family and to help generate conversation and questions that family may be able to ask staff while they were on site. We created a paper and electronic application and sent to families just after the April break. And then that Monday back from break, applications were also in schools and sent home in backpacks. On that Wednesday after April break, we held an application support night. We were able to obtain 9 applications at that time. 10 applications at that time. And over that period of time, 15 applications had come in through the electronic application site. That brought our community outreach efforts down to 85 families that we needed to do home visits on, 63 North Albany, and all 22 of the Delaware Community School and Schuyler Achievement families. They began that work that weekend and then continued into the next week. They did attend the NAA Spring Concert specifically with the intent to find those families on that list. We've talked about future efforts at future events where information can be provided more broadly to the North Albany families. Through their concentrated effort, out of the 110 targeted students, they were able to help us get out completed applications from 88 students. There's an extra 2 there because we did contact the pre-K families who had already registered for North Albany who had siblings in the school to ensure that they were placed with their families together, so we were able to get applications from them. We had 12 families refuse to submit an application because they indicated they would not be attending Albany schools but possibly attending a charter school. And we had 12 families who indicated that they were relocated or were in the process of relocating and would not be filling out an application as well. My intention is to place these students into a seat and to send these families a letter in the event that their plans change so that we have an account for those students. We are in the process of assigning all of those students, and so I have some preliminary statistics for you. Once we have that finalized number for our reseated students, we will be notifying them through the mail middle of next week, so that they have that before we go on Memorial break, as originally planned. The special education department will also be sending notifications to the families who they assign to their schools, so that those families will also receive notification of their placement as they do every year. So just so you have some understanding of how our numbers shook out, we had some lengthy conversations about what we would do if 25 students wanted the 1 seat, and I'm thrilled and shocked to report that only 3 students are vying for 2 available seats. Or actually, no, there's actually 2. There shouldn't be 1. And so that's the one instance where we will have to have a randomized approach to assigning those students a particular seat, so that is in process. We had every student except for approximately 9 to 12. Now this number isn't a solid number yet because we're working on some things with our kindergarten numbers. We just did our pre-K to kindergarten rollover, and we're still cleaning that up. So based on those numbers, that will shift a little bit. So most of those students who are first choice that did not get a first choice are kindergarten students. And in the event that the first choice kindergarten space is not available, they will get their second or third choice based on what they have chosen. There were 17 total sibling sets in our data. 13 of them have already been placed into their first choice. 1 will be contacted to decide if they would like to split their students or to choose to have 1 go to the first choice and the other not. 1 chose different schools for their children, so we will probably double check that as well just to make sure that that is accurate. And 2 will be offered their second or third choice. They're in that original 9 to 12. 3 of our families have accepted seats in the lottery, so they will be going to a magnet school. And so that is our effort thus far around the reseating. We're excited that we got applications from everyone we needed to get them from. The community outreach effort was incredible on the part of the community outreach team. They called me each evening if they had a question or weren't sure about something, or if they needed to, make a promise to a parent that they were doing the right thing. They were just awesome and on top of it and really appreciate it. So the second part of our work is to assign the remaining 134 students to their home school. So very similar, like I said, we sent letters home initially, we created the posters, and we've preliminarily placed those students into their neighborhood schools based on their space. 16 of them, so originally I said 22, 16 could not be placed in their neighborhood school because there wasn't enough space. 6 of that original 22 are actually special education students now and will be placed by special education. Parents and guardians will be notified that they are being enrolled in their neighborhood school again, we've been doing mail and backpack, and I'm going to talk about another option on the next slide. And there is still an opportunity for open enrollment for these families. We already have had a significant influx of open enrollment applications, and our database for open enrollment is being created this time, so I can't give you specific numbers as to how many of those families may be some of these North Albany families. Surprisingly, there will be some spaces available in some schools that still give these families some choices, for which I'm grateful. I wasn't sure how that was going to shake out. And interestingly enough, the majority of first and second choice selections were for Arbor Hill Elementary School and New Scotland Elementary School. Over 30 families chose those for first and second choice. But what's nice is between the re-enrollment, or the reseating, and the rolling to the home schools, there isn't a huge cluster of students going to one space. They're kind of moving in pretty even groups, some more than others, in terms of what they chose. So like I said, our initial effort targeted the 110 families who needed to submit applications. Once our assignment letters go out next week for all families, both the North Albany zone and the schools going to their home schools, we would like to do robocalls to all those families, letting them know that by now they should have received a letter stating where their child will be attending school next year, if they have questions, et cetera, whom to contact, and if you had not received it, whom to contact. We want to do reminders at appropriate school events. I did have some conversation with Ms. Buff about the level of communication being provided, and there is an effort to be sensitive at this point in time because it's a difficult time for that school community. So, we're sometimes going to be at very happy events talking about the fact that this is the last time the school's coming together to do a particular thing, and by the way, don't forget that, you're going to a new school next year is kind of a tough thing to do. And I'm glad I didn't get verklempt this time. The last couple times I've talked about it, I've gotten a little upset. So they're going to try to be sensitive about that, and I will again engage the community engagement team as appropriate to kind of be on hand to answer questions maybe off to the side for families so it doesn't have to be central to the event. And we thought we could also do an insert for the final report card. So they'll get that one more time. Here's where your child will be going to school. And I just want to reiterate, regardless of the option, Central Registration is working very closely with me on all of this to make sure our numbers are where they're supposed to do, and they will handle the rollover of these students into their appropriate school settings. These families will not need to come to Central Registration unless they need to do a change of address.
Board colleagues, that was a very, very detailed report. Thank you so much, Dr. Wilson-Turner and your team, for all of the really intimate and caring approach that we've taken to this difficult time, because it is a difficult time. I mean, it's never easy, and we're doing everything we can, but it's not an easy decision for us and not an easy experience for those families. So thank you for that. Board colleagues, do you have any questions? Ms. Krejci.
Yes, there was one thing, there was just one number I couldn't quite get my head around in this presentation, and it was, so there's 3 students who want the same first choice, but then there's 9 to 12 students who won't get their first choice. Yes, how does that work?
It's so funny, because I had the ladies in the office reading, they were like, that's the one we can't quite understand. So what I'm saying in the first one is, the conflict for first choice means that there's actually seats available that those students could get into, but it's not enough for all of them. So those 3 students have to kind of vie it out to see who's going to get that seat. That's where we would need to pull a name out of a hat, run a beautiful system, so we could do that fairly. The 9 to 12 students are choosing a school where there are no seats for them to actually access. So they are automatically going to go into their second or third choice.
Oh,
What
understood.
I'm distinguishing there is the majority of students and their families are going to get to go to the school that they chose. There will be a handful of families that are going to their second or their third choice.
So in other words, because the form is generic across the grades, you can select an option that like would never be an option for you anyway on the form. Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for your sensitivity throughout this process and making this as easy and coherent for the parents as possible and the families.
Ms. Alexander Mann and then Ms. Wilson.
So I'm going to start with a question and end with a compliment. There was a slide where you talked about the application statistics, and there were 12 families that refused and indicated they were attending a charter. Another 12 said they were relocating. 12 families, what does that translate out into the number of students?
I'm sorry, 12 students.
It's 12, perfect.
Yep, thank
great.
you.
Okay, now the compliment. The compliment. Now, I too appreciate the sensitivity, and I think it's fabulous that we made it so that the parents didn't have to go to central registration, and yeah, so thank you.
Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, and we appreciate this update so much. And it's, to me, as far as the progress, very favorable. So we thank you. I know that was a lot of hard work, and it was really not so much a question, but I think it's really brilliant that you placed a backstop for the charter school families, just in case something didn't pan out, or you know, things of that nature. So thank you again.
Any further questions? Then thank you very much, Dr. Wilson Turner. And I would like to entertain a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing matters leading to the continued employment of personnel. Do I have a motion? Dr. Chtor, seconded by Ms. Smith. All in favor? That is unanimous. The board does not expect to return to public session, so anyone who is here who would like to see us again, you will have to wait for 2 weeks. Thank you very much.